That's how creator content works. Remember, this isn't TV. This is culture.
Welcome to Made for TikTok Talking Creative, a show featuring inspirational conversations with creative leaders who have mastered the art of producing TikTok content and continue to raise the bar for the advertising industry. I'm Jordan, Creative Agency Partnerships Lead at TikTok, and today we're talking about creator collaborations. Wher is a creator commerce company that's reinventing how brands and agencies can drive growth through creator partnerships. Here to share their insights is Ashley Rudder, Wher's first Chief Creator Officer. Ashley, thank you for joining us today.
Oh, thank you so much for having me, Jordan. I'm thrilled to be here.
It's nice to have you here all the way from LA.
Yes.
Welcome.
Thank you so much.
I want to get into your professional journey
Okay.
because you started off as a makeup artist and you transitioned into marketing. So many creators are trying to figure out how to transition from the creative work that they do and figure out how to maybe turn it into a broader marketing career. Can you just talk to us about that transition?
For sure. It's definitely like the culmination of, side hustles and passion meets opportunity and preparation and advocating for yourself. So, working in the industry for so long, I had seen that there was a gap. Mac was known for its really beautiful visuals, right? Very controlled. But I also knew that through my work with celebrity as a celebrity makeup artist that and I was helping them with their socials because, I had a passion for taking photos and all these things. And that's how I wanted to set myself apart within our industry. And so whenever I started seeing the commercial ads that are coming out that they're posting on social really aren't performing. I'm not seeing the vibe. I'm like the culture down deep was really supposed to be word of mouth. And it was where people wanted to come together and see and be seen and learn at a pro level. And it just wasn't reflected in the social space. So that's when I started asking the marketing team questions and, offering help. And I was like, hey, do you need some lip shots? They were like, oh my gosh, we need content. You can give us content? I'm like, heck yeah, I can give you content. And, those conversations ended up leading to, can we have coffee? Can we have lunch? I do have a degree in business marketing, and which I did while I was working full time, and which was great.
That's
but
a lot, yeah.
That was still I was doing it to inform the work that I was doing at the counter because I was working at the Mac counter. I was managing a business there, and I wanted to understand it and really understand how to grow that business.
Yeah.
But that's how it all came together. It was practical application of a passion of mine, how I was leveraging it privately with clients, ended up creeping its way into something more pro. And so at this point, had been doing content creation for about 4 years.
Yeah.
Had been helping the marketing team for about 2 years.
Okay.
And then I ended up writing a job description for being the director of digital content and artistry at Mac and pitched it to the creative director, and it hadn't been done before. So it took months to get it across the finish line because no one had come from the counter to work in the corporate office. It just wasn't done like that because everyone was staunch creative background, that's what they went to school for. People had, master's degrees in creative design and creative communication design, and here I am. But the social space, those things weren't applying.
Yeah,
that classical skill set wasn't translating in that space, and so there needed to be a translator. And so that's where I got to come in and really kind of be disruptive and do things that weren't done, which again was at the core and the ethos of that brand in general. So I was here to bring the culture back to the creative, which was a really, really fun thing.
I love that. So you have a very special and personal link to what you do now. You're the Chief Creator Officer at Wher. I learned of you for the very first time at an award show. You accepted an award on stage, and I heard the title, and I was like, I've never heard that title before. And I'm happy that I wrote in my little notes app that I wanted to do more research because I'm just curious, what does that job even entail? What are you doing as the Chief Creator Officer?
I'm so glad that it stood out to you because I'm the first. I'm the first in the industry. I don't plan on being though, but this is an evolved creative director role where I help elevate the work, help inform what I call them social anthropologists, where we are listening to the culture on social, trying to understand what's happening, what has happened in the past, what's happening now, how that should translate, and how we can really elevate the work from the creator side and the brand side. Because at Wher, we are at this really cool intersection of speaking with brands daily, speaking with creators daily, and also speaking with the platforms daily. So the cool thing is that this is the evolution of what's happening in ad land. And at my personal experience walking into those rooms was I was able to help that creative work better, faster, be more nimble. You know, it just like have new ideas, help understand who the culture and the customer was. And I can see that being something that wasn't like a one-off. This is like the future of the industry.
Yeah.
More people are on social. Doesn't matter the generation. More generations are on social, period. They're spending more time there, hard stop. So if this is the new environment for entertainment, that means that people who are in that space, creators who are vetted, they may not know all the vernacular. However, they are some of the most tried and true and tested creatives in that space.
Yeah.
And them partnering with classic agencies is just the new evolution.
Right. So you're innovating an entire creator economy. And where are you finding your creative inspiration these days?
Oh my gosh. I mean, it's still on social. It's both. I feel like my life is omni-channel. Because you want both. You want to be able to like come and kiki online and talk to your community online. But then you also want to show up and like have the hugs and the the ooh-ah moments and have a really visceral, physical response to something. And so, like going to festivals, I feel like now, because we've all were trapped for so long, but also now we're feeling so safe and free, and there's so much more creativity because it was all pent up for so long. I just feel like there's so much evolution. So love going to music festivals. I'm a huge country music fan. Love going dancing. Yeah, I'm all over the place. Love going out at night. I have a 21-year-old daughter, so I'm not babysitting anyone. So mama's out at night, like having fun. So, I like to do all those things.
Where are you, like, how much time are you spending on TikTok?
It's quite a bit of time on TikTok.
On a given week,
I have
let's
to. It's embarrassing because that's my job. So, I mean, like, I'm on there, I would say at least 20 hours a week.
Okay.
Because I'm researching, it's twofold, because I'm researching for work and trying to find really incredible creators, understanding communities, understanding trends, understanding sounds. So I'm there for that, but I'm also there for my personal enjoyment.
Right.
So my own algorithm is like hitting the way I need it to hit.
Right. And speaking of that algorithm, what's your For You page looking like? What communities and content is kind of taking over right now for you?
Oh my gosh. Okay. Well, Forever Beauty, I can never like get away from it. So I'm always like watching like the latest and greatest. Right now I'm like big into the majorettes right now because the HBCUs are like really popping off because it's football season. So a lot of that's in there. Okay.
Yeah, I went to a HBCU, so I have a deep appreciation for majorettes.
Did you? Yes, let's go. I didn't get to go. I'm like living vicariously through, like the Southern Classic and like watching
it's a vibe,
them act up, right?
And now you can watch it. You can watch it on TikTok, and you can feel like you're in that experience, and you can look at it from the point of view of a student or maybe somebody who's just there at the game. So
facts.
I love that.
I mean, and of course, like the Renaissance that is right now, and seeing how that's playing out. And it's actually funny to see like a lot of the dance culture that's on TikTok right now is like majorette inspired, which I think is super cool.
Oh yeah, love that. So shifting over a bit to Wher, I'm curious to know when a creative agency or a brand comes to Wher and they want to start with a creator collaboration, what are you typically asking them to understand how to best meet their needs?
Well, we need to understand like what part of the funnel they're wanting to work on. Is this awareness? Are we working on conversion? Like, what do we reach? What are we trying to understand here? And then that's when we know what the mix should be. And also if they understand the space, because there's some brands that come in and they already have a very robust creator strategy, which we're like, great, we can hit the ground running. But others, they might be seeing, creators as a tactic and rather than like a full holistic channel, because creators are media. And I don't think that brands are understanding and leveraging in creators that way. And so I'm like, you're not getting the bang for your buck if you're just doing a one-off campaign. Like, so a lot of times you're doing a lot of education and it just depends. Like, it's a lot of bespoke conversation. We have to build trust if it's a new client. And then there's other amazing things that we get to like really partner on a strategy together for the brands that we work with regularly, which is like we have consistent strategy sessions, and we get to like talk about wild ideas, because now that they know how we work and that it's so high touch, because they're never just like having to manage it on their own. We really hold their hand all the way through it. Like we are managing the creators, all the things, the assets, like to make it seamless for the brand. And they're like, okay, I feel comfortable testing and learning now. I've seen the results. Like, we're winning. Let's like lean harder into the strategy brain trust that's within Wher, which I think is like one of our biggest secret weapons.
Yeah, if you had to synthesize for a brand, maybe that's already managing their own creator selection and management, and they're trying to now consider Wher as an option to partner with to make that process easier. What's the value proposition that you're letting these creative agencies and brands know?
Fun fact, I was a client before I worked at Wher, and that's how I fell in love with them so much. And like the value proposition for me was that they ended up becoming like my eyes and hands. Like they understood what was the most important to me, and they were able to do a deeper dive on the creator community in a way that was so nuanced. And that's why when I called Joe up, who's the president of Wher, I was like, when looking for something new and exciting, we were talking about just that, with how we're going to plus this up. And that's when we were talking about the intersectionality of community. And that's where I feel brands and agencies, even if they have a current strategy, them understanding this additional entity of a community is something that I don't think is fully considered. So yes, we want to look at the baseline things. What are the assets gorgeous? Are they consistent? Is the creator safe and on brand for this client? And then there's this whole other layer of like, who is in their community? Because a community is also multifaceted.
Right.
Because they've been following a creator at different points in their life, right? So even though a creator may have a baseline, pillar of like how they show up, every time it's evolving a little. So someone like, oh, well, I saw them when they were in their, marathon phase, or, oh, I saw it when their mom was like recuperating from heart surgery, and that's what I like gravitated towards. And like, so there's lots of different topics within a creator community and that we analyze. So there's an art and a science to how we creator source. It's not about volume, even though we do obviously provide creator lists at scale. This is seriously nuanced work that we're doing at Wher.
The nuanced approach is really interesting because I think traditionally speaking, when you think about advertising, the focus is usually on these mass media platforms, right? You want to talk to as many people with as few assets as possible to get the most efficiency. But the creator economy is encouraging brands and creative agencies to be more niche and spread their assets out and reach more audiences. How are you framing the opportunity to invest in underrepresented communities on TikTok?
Well, I mean, we invest so much time in the research behind that, and the whole thing of it is, and like, I'm just going to take 2 steps back, Jordan, just to break something down real quick. Like, listen, we have like some incredible data behind communities, marginalized communities, and underserved communities, and those communities have followerships that have extremely high engagement because the trust is there. Again, if you're just speaking from my personal experience, I'm an African American woman. If I want to talk to someone about what products to use on my hair, this is a very personal thing. Like, it's the thing. There's not a lot of products that can serve me, and so with my time, like, I really look for a creator that's going to do that. And when they say it, I'm acting, and that's what we're seeing. Is like, it doesn't matter if it's a disability community or if it's a cultural, ethnic, LGBTQIA orientation, how someone shows up in the space, that activates and is like an ignition. It's a catalyst for even more engagement. And so we are constantly lobbying for more creators of color to be in projects and have them in initiatives around them. But naturally, like, that's just how we work. Like, 60% of our casting is always diverse. So that's just our ethos and how we choose to go about our business. And that's also, again, the formula for success. That's why our clients see like exponential success from us, is because we know, not only is it better because it's just socially the right thing to do, but also it's highly effective. And so we do preach that, in order to have your bottom line be good, that you need to do good. You need to do good out in the world. And that's also what Gen Z is counting the receipts for. And that's why there's such a huge shift.
Right.
But even on top of that, I'll go into just like double click, because I have to shout out our measurement team, because they have come up with the first of its kind, like full funnel measurement, just like regular media. They can measure creator content like that now. And we offer that solution. So again, if someone is, if an agency or a brand is still trying to figure out how is their creator strategy working, like is it really working? Yes, we can measure it fully. Just like any classic TV ad, we can now measure creator content just like that, and our team has figured that out, and that is like a true differentiator, which is like a game changer.
That's really, really exciting to hear, because I think that sometimes when an advertiser is not really familiar with the creator economy or creator partnerships, they may just look at that follower count and just use the follower count as a justification for how much they should be paying. I hear you talk about trust and credibility within these communities. What are some of the other factors that go into developing what that rate is for a creator?
Oh, well, I mean, there's so many. I mean, in terms of what that creator's content style is, like we have people who are doing like full visual effects using AI. Their IP is bonkers, and the production time it takes for them to execute an asset is long. So that creator instantly is like, we're lobbying for them to get a higher dollar amount because of, again, the pure cost of executing the work by hours, but also in terms of their performance. You know, is it driving business? And now that we can track it, we can really tell who has, you know, a kind of just like calm, neutral audience that may show up a bit, but now we know who is like a voice in the community is driving sales.
Gotcha.
And who's driving reach, who's driving conversation. If someone wants to be disruptive and create culture or define a trend, we know what creators to lean into to do that.
So building on that, I know that Wher's focus, or one of Wher's focuses, is making sure that creators have the proper equity that they need in these partnerships, and that they're not being taken advantage of, and they're getting what they deserve.
Correct.
There's a question that I have about usage rights. So oftentimes a brand or an advertiser may come to a creator collaboration and just use it, like the usage rights maybe for a couple of months. How does that pricing structure differ from when an advertiser may be looking to own that content and use it in perpetuity?
Right. I mean, whoa, to say something in perpetuity, like that's a huge buy, you know? And so it is pricier. And that's why we, you know, ask a lot of questions of our client, because, you know, if you're trying to use an asset classically, it's going to be gone in a month. So why pay for usage for beyond that? You know, if you're paying for 4 weeks, why get the contract for 6 months? You're paying more. But also, you know, there are things and tactics that we use on the back end to also make sure that the brands are protected, because we've all seen it happen. They've gotten a classic campaign with a creator, they've gotten their asset, the asset, you know, goes viral, and now they want to continue to leverage that asset going forward. So then we have to go back and renegotiate. So we don't go about it that way. We pre-negotiate an extended usage so that the brands are also not getting like overcharged for wanting to use assets for longer, so that it's equitable on all sides, because that's really what we want. We want a symbiotic relationship between brands and creators, for creators to understand terms like usage rights and know what they're signing over. You know, some brands do want to pay for things in perpetuity because they want to use them everywhere, which is great if they have the checkbook to do so. But we also, you know, educate the creator to say, listen, they are literally saying they are going to buy this outright. You need to understand what that means, and so that everyone's like walking into this space fully knowledgeable about how they want to proceed with business.
So it's really about establishing trust with both parties.
Absolutely.
Understanding what the brand ultimately wants to accomplish and making sure that that's always in mind within the negotiations, and then also making sure that the creator is being represented equitably. Absolutely.
Because I mean, there's a lot of agencies that are out there that are, you know, offering $150, $200 for an asset, and you know, that's a different play than that's a different strategy than what Wher has. You know, ours is like so much more specific because, again, of this art and science that how we go about casting a campaign. Others want to do like hard, fast, like tons of assets. That is a tactic, but we prefer to do it more strategically. Like, we know how this audience is going to work. We want to elevate the creator's work. Again, they have people like myself and others, like the team, our client services team, that's analyzing the work itself and saying, this could be better. This isn't clear enough. If you aren't having those layers of excellence added to it, there's room for error. And that's why a lot of the brands that come to us or who have used other agencies, they've gotten burned because they weren't vetted enough, or the assets weren't clean, or they got them late, or they weren't delivered. And those aren't things that happen when we're managing a creator campaign. We're monitoring all of that from roots to boots. We've got it covered.
I love that. Well, we're going to take a brief moment, and we'll be right back.
Are you feeling lost in creator marketing? Don't know where to go in the creator economy? Do you want to thrive on TikTok? Let's find your match on the TikTok Creator Marketplace. TikTok is the core of the creator economy, and there's no way we're leaving you behind. So if you want your next branded content to make headlines, TikTok Creator Marketplace can help. We've got access to over 800,000 talented creators, from comedians to foodies to hikers through the Appalachian Mountains. TikTok Creator Marketplace can connect you with any community out there. Check out this before and after of an advertiser finding a match on TikTok Creator Marketplace. Oh. That's the face of someone who's about to start dropping some fire content. Your creator collabs have never been this easy. Get started with TikTok Creator Marketplace today.
So I'm curious to know, you work with a lot of brands and a lot of creative agencies. What are you seeing as some of the common mistakes that they're making when they're entering into these creator partnerships?
Well, I think that the biggest one is, and I'll just double down on it, is the opportunity of really leaning into a creator's full scope of capability. You know, they have the capacity to, you know, work alongside a creative team as well as provide assets, speak to brand name equity, and say, oh, you know, they're supporting me in this way in my production, and you know, they've enhanced my blah blah blah, and you know, I'm on a year-long ambassadorship now with them. And so those narratives get to carry out in a longer way, because now that this type of marketing is out there, the audience is aware of it. They're not mad at it at all. Like they love it when they see their favorite creator get a campaign, but they know it is what it is, right? And we always want to make sure that the brand is getting what they want from it, not just the one-off. But that's why one-off campaigns are cool. They can work, but it's not going to have the ripple effect that a full ambassadorship and a long-term partnership is going to have, nor will it show the brand love that infusing a creator into their creative team, having them behind the camera or alongside their marketing team. That's a storyline that you don't hear all the time, and that's what ends up, you know, aligning with, for something to really go bonkers, right? You have to have both now. You have to have the paid, and you have to have an incredible creative out there, right? So when those two things happen together, that's when you get virality. They're not like independent. Otherwise, it's just like, you can't even see the content if there's not, you know, when there is a partnership involved, it's not even going to be seen without the paid element. But seen is fine, but having activity, wanting to be a part of a conversation, a culture, entering into a community, that's a whole different ball game. And that is what is the biggest miss to me, is that you understand what they could be doing for you, and how your brand could really become like a way of life within this creator's narrative, and how it's relensed.
Are you showing the value of that sort of approach through any of the measurement work that Wher is doing? Is that what you're educating brands? What are some of the highlights or the benefits that you're communicating to brands and creative agencies by investing in long-term relationships with creators? Got
it. Well, our new MMM study just came out, and we have found that these long-term relationships, like with the proper paid, like we're seeing that for every dollar a brand is spending on an asset to put paid behind it, they're getting $2.14 back. Major, like our jaws dropped when we saw that kind of data. And it's all showing how powerful all of this is. There's like wild numbers out there, like 67% of the audience believes a creator asset more, especially when a community follows it. Like if I know you, and if we're following the same person, I'm going to believe that creator even more now, because now I have a real life community, online community, all following the same content, and we're all aligning that this is great content. So it's activating everything, and we're just seeing we have so much data behind this. It's wild. And so, but that's the great thing about our team is that we're able to share these things, and which is also why I fell in love with Whaler when I was a client, because I didn't have access to that kind of data. I wasn't able to walk into a room with leadership and say, I know that this is going to work and why. It was always very gray, but it's no longer as a gray. Like, we figured it out because we know that that's what our clients need from us.
When you talk about believability, right? You open up TikTok and you look, and sometimes you can sense when it is something that's overly prescriptive. The brand messaging is in your face.
For sure.
How are you educating both ends of the spectrum, so both brands, agencies, as well as creators, on finding that balance between a creator's authenticity and making sure that you're hitting those brand messages?
I'm glad you're bringing it up. I skip that one because I always feel like people hear like authenticity, and they're like rolling their eyes. But I mean, at the end of the day, we still are briefing on that. Like, we're still trying to inform people, like, please, like, take the chokehold off of this messaging, because it's not going to thrive like you want it to. It has to have the creator's fingerprint on it, like full on fingerprint, conversation, language style. If they aren't saying the full name, is it really that big of a deal? No, because they're going to be able to find out where to get it, because that's how creators work. That's how creator content works. And it's that piece of, remember, this isn't TV. This is culture. It means that your brand is now reskinned in a creator's entity. So this is really a B2B conversation. This is not like brand and actor conversation. This is a brand, a creator with the massive following that believes in their ethos and what they're about. And your brand is stepping now into their space, and you have to look and feel like that. And the instant you try to script it, it's over.
Do you feel like do you find yourself saying that over and over again? Or do you think that since you've started at Whaler, brands and creative agencies are starting to get it more?
They're getting it. They are getting it, for sure. Especially the brands that work with us. They're like, oh, that's what that looks like. I mean, and we don't have to do as many tactics as what we used to have to do, which was like, encourage the creator to make 2 assets. Like, give it to them the way they want it. And we're recommending that you shoot it the way you would shoot it, so that we can give them an option. And, because our creators trust us and they understand the assignment, because they're like, I don't want to put this out like this anyway. Like, we're all advocating on their behalf. And so that's when we saw the unlock. And so we're having to do that less and less, to have to like prove like this is what this looks like. There's already an evolution of thought there, which is great to see. But there's still a lot of work to be done, because the biggest brands out there have some real dinosaurs holding on to the checkbooks that don't understand how things are supposed to look when they hit this stage and like on this channel.
Are there any specific TikTok campaigns that you feel deliver quite nicely on all these things that we're talking about?
Absolutely. I mean, can I just speak on any work? Because I did have the pleasure of being a Cannes Lion juror this past year, judging for the social and influencer category, and there's some fantastic work out there. The work that Samsung's been doing around Flip, where there's all these different facets and layers. There's Easter eggs. There's a scavenger hunt. There's telling you, like, we want you to find us. We like find us, like, it's like counterculture. How Gen Z doesn't want to find ads or look at ads. It's not true. It's just like Gen Z doesn't like to look at bad ads. Because that ad was like, it was so killer. That's why we put it in Grand Prix for Cannes Lion. And because it did that, it made them say, how smart are you as a young person on the internet? Go search and put in all the keywords to try to have Flip find you, and then you'll get all of these things. And it was like this bespoke, like this massive amount of bespoke content, so that through your search terms, like let's say you like motorcycles, blah, 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 they had a large enough creator pool that had great assets that were going to speak to that particular customer. So it was so multifaceted that, and the conversation of people being like, this is so dope. Like I'm looking at this every day. And so it just hit so many, like SEO, social, culture, counterculture. I mean, it was just bonkers. And it was, again, exponentially successful for a phone that's like $1,000. It's a high price point in a category that people are like, does Gen Z have that kind of money to spend? But they bought it up. They snatched it up.
I mean, Cannes is one of the most prominent award shows in the advertising industry, and to see creator-led content be amplified there and celebrated there, where do you see creator-led content evolving in the future, specifically on TikTok? I
definitely see it evolving in a space where, there's a category that's called like real-time response. And it's like something happens in culture. How did a brand respond to it? I can see creators really going nuts in that area, because I think creators like intrinsically understand like where a brand can naturally fit. And that's like the real unlock for me, is that, oh, wow, they really are constant. I'm always in awe of them because they're constantly uncovering natural places for brands to live that you're like, duh, why didn't... You know, again, like we're all like, we see it all the time. They're trying to sell something, but it's like, it's not about that. It's about the experience and where it naturally would occur. And it's something so simple to look over. But if there is a cultural nuance there, an African festival, someone might be from the islands, blah, blah, this and that, right? Again, niche community, but hyper engagement, but also that community influences the cool factor. So there's a halo effect of like what that community, how they're seen and how they affect the marketplace. And so those are things that we're looking for. And that's why, you know, when you say like, what are you seeing, and what's evolution and how do I see it like showing up there? That's how I see it showing up. And that's why, again, like the most innovative brands that we work with at Wher are leveraging creators on their creative teams and behind the camera on set. And that's why, and that's where I think the next phase will go, and whether things are really good, get interesting and get inspiring.
For my final question, I would love if you share some advice. You already share so many gems, but if you could share some advice for a creative agency or a brand that's looking to really start to invest in their creator partnerships, what advice would you give to them to get started and get on the right track?
I say start early. Once you start working on your internal brief, that's when your creator strategy should be also beginning. The faster that they're in there, closer to you, the better your end product is going to be. It doesn't matter if it's your TVC ad, your stills for out of home. If it is influence and creator influence, it's going to win. And that's the biggest unlock for me, is that piece. And that also, they're not a one-off tactic. Don't think about your creator strategy when it's like everybody's feeling good. We're about to launch in 6 weeks. Oh, what about the creators?
We're the creators, yeah.
Yeah, no. Like, you need to, you know, and also want to be realistic. I know that not everyone's ready to have a creator inserted into their creative team, because that's very new. That's a very new idea. But early, as early as possible. When you're starting, like if you've already shot your classic campaign product, you need to start your creator strategy right then. When you're viewing and editing your campaign, you should be briefing in your creators at that point, because the closer they can get to your brand and product and understand it, the better the assets are going to be. When you rush them, I mean, we've all heard the adage of like, you can either get it two ways, good or fast. Obviously, creators are dope because they work really fast anyway, which is, again, why it's fantastic. But just, again, imagine if you gave them the space. Imagine if they were doing this great on the fly, come on, you give them more time, it's going to be wild. You have more time to nuance. So that's my biggest piece is the timing and the insertion into the broader strategy, and not just as something that's like off to the side and sprinkled on top of it all. It should be more embedded.
Thank you so much, Ashley, for sharing your story with us.
Oh, it's been my pleasure. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. And if you work at a creative agency and you're looking for support on your next TikTok brief, scan the QR code on the screen or tap the link in our description to connect with the Creative Agency Partnerships team. Don't miss out on upcoming episodes of Made for TikTok, Talking Creative. Hit that subscribe button. I'm Jordan. Thank you for tuning in.